Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the shop. So today I'm going to show you how to replace the cartridge on a single handle Moen kitchen faucet. This one is an Aberdeen style. It's about 16, 17 years old, and we had it in our kitchen until just a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to show you some of the tips, tricks, things to avoid, and what kind of parts you're going to need to complete this successfully. So to start off, our kitchen faucet wasn't leaking or anything like that, but my wife noticed that it was becoming difficult to turn on and off. It was kind of dragging a little bit as you move the lever, and also you can see that it's got a little bit of a wobble to it. It's not very tight. So we replaced it. We replaced it with a new Moen motion sensing faucet. And a word about the quality. Why would I even bother, or why would you even want to bother fixing one of these older faucets? The stainless steel is a much heavier gauge. You can see, like I said, this was in daily use for 17 years, and the stainless steel looks great. It's very heavy gauge. The new one that we bought was $250. We got it on sale. I think it was $300, and then they put it on sale for $255. It's a much lighter gauge stainless steel, and I don't expect it to last 17 years. So here's what we're looking at underneath your sink. Usually your bowl is in the way of all this hardware right here. You've got your cartridge on the right, and you've got your faucet on the left. Hot water comes in here, cold water comes in here, and this goes from your cartridge via this hose, which uses a press fitting here. Just push that in with your thumb, and it locks and unlocks, and it goes over to your faucet over here. And this is the hose for your wand. All right, so if you need to put this, on or remove it, you're going to press in with your thumb and push up, and it's going to lock. You can see how that's tight in there now. If you need to remove it, it just comes right off. Just pull straight down. Now, if you're dealing with one like ours that's been in for a number of years, it's not going to come apart that easy. You're definitely going to have to wiggle it back and forth because there'll be some corrosion. So if it doesn't come off that easily, just keep at it and work slowly. If you do have to take this apart, here's how that special tool works. You're going to reach under your sink bowl, behind your sink bowl, and you're going to reach up like this. Now, this is flexible copper pipe right here. It's meant to bend a little bit. It's not super easy to bend, but it is bendable. Mine were curved pretty well to the side, just because of how my pipes are underneath my sink. I'm sure yours will be very much the same. You're going to have to straighten those, as well as possibly bend them away from the nut to give yourself room to work. Then you're going to loosen that. This is what I had to do in order to soak this in vinegar to get the whole thing cleaned. If you're going to do it, you might as well do it right. This thing comes off. You may have to pinch these together to get it to move. There you go. And now that's out. Put that to the side. Now, in order to get it out through this hole, I don't remember what the standard is. I think this one is 32 millimeters, or maybe 1 1/8", something like that. You're going to work that out of the hole. This brass piece here, this little brass nipple, is not movable. Do not break it. Your copper, you may have to bend slightly to get it through that hole. You can see first one's going through, and then the other. That's what it looks like on top. So first the brass nipple, then the other one, and then you can get them both out. Now, this has an O-ring under here. Mine were in pretty bad shape. So I definitely recommend replacing these. And I don't remember what size it is. These are just a handful of O-rings that I bought from Menards. They're about 80 cents a piece. And I thought it looked like it was about like that one, but what I'll do is I'll take these out and I'll go and I'll match them up exactly. I didn't see anything else, any other kits that had them. That is just not wanting to come out for me. It's a pick. So this is what I'm going to use to pick this out. There you go. So that comes out. I recommend replacing this. You can see how that's pretty loose now. That's because this cover only screws into this this plastic. I don't even know what it's called. Yeah, you saw it from early in the video when we saw it from the top. But that's what clamps the whole assembly onto your counter. Remember I said these are flexible. There we go. Next, I'm going to take this one apart. Comes apart the same way. Where is my wrench? There it is. Well, and we're also going to disconnect this from our wand. You see it's got these two, this clamp here. It works just like this. Pushes in, push the little two tabs together, and it pops back out. Now this plastic piece here unscrews from the brass. And then that's how you get it out of here. You just pull it all the way through. And it comes all the way out. And now that's apart. We're going to put that back so we don't lose it or don't damage the threads. And we're going to continue removing this. Just like the other one. It comes out really easily. You can see something I want to show you on this one. If you're gonna fix your own faucet, you might as well do it right and take it all apart. So you can see how rusty this has gotten under there. If I was gonna reinstall this, the first thing I do is I scrape all that rust off, or I get a wire brush. I wire brush all that rust off of there and recoat it somehow. Just like the other one, except this, the size of this hole is much more critical, because you can see that you don't have a whole lot of space there. This inner lip here, again, apologize for my camera work. There we go. This inner lip here does not have a whole lot of bite to it. There's not a lot of space in between there, and here's your gasket, and here's your outer rim. This, the outer of the part of the body, unlike on the faucet, it's stainless steel. The handle is plastic, but on the faucet it's stainless steel, and it doesn't have a gasket, so you can see there's a lot of corrosion in here. I've already gotten a lot out by scraping. Haven't soaked it in vinegar yet, but I've done a lot of scraping to get the corrosion out of here. So this little gasket doesn't really do a lot of good, especially if your hole is too big. The size of that hole is critical. If you go just a little bit too big, this gasket isn't doing anything at all. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to find another gasket that fits the outer diameter of this. This is the one from the other. So a little bigger than this gasket that came off of the handle. And I could actually put two gaskets on here and maybe keep some of that water from getting past this and getting all over here and causing all that corrosion. So let's start with the parts that you're going to need. So the first thing you're going to need is you're going to need a faucet repair kit right here. This is Moen part number 1079104. These were $10 at Menards. They were such a good deal, I bought a second one because this is a pretty common, the Moen single handle faucet's pretty common, and I have no doubt that I or a friend will need this someday in the future. The next thing you need is a replacement cartridge. This is a Moen 1225. You can see right there. Most common are the Moen 1255 and 1225. I know the new one we've got uses a 1255. This one here's the 1225. If you don't have one of these, just in case you need to remove this cartridge, the only way you're going to be able to do it is by accessing a nut that is underneath. And again, like I showed you before, that's all behind your bowl. And the only way to get at it is by one of these special tools. They're not very expensive. This one came with our new sink, and it's just plastic. You could pick these up probably for $5 at any hardware store. I picked up a brass cartridge repair kit as well. This is not a Moen. This is an aftermarket brand. I'll show you why. In addition to a bunch of washers, it's got this little brass clip. Now, whenever I can, I like to replace worn and corroded parts with new parts. This was about $3 or less for this kit. $20 for the cartridge. The next thing you need is a cartridge removal tool. This is a Moen brand. It works on three different styles: 1225, 1200, and 1222 cartridges. Again, this is about $20. So all in parts, I'm in for less than $75. The other thing you need is a brass wire brush to clean the body of your cartridge, or the body of your faucet. So let's start taking this apart, and let me show you the first trick. Okay, first of all, we're going to make sure that we've got our parts out of our kit. Now, the first thing we've got here is we've got the pivot retainer. We've got our pivot stop. We've got our handle adapter, which has the handle connector in there, which is plastic, and it pops on and off. Definitely don't want to break that. It's not connected when you get it out of the kit. You can see how easy that comes on and off. It should slide right out. And there's what it looks like. All right, and I'm just going to put that back on. Pops right in there. Now that's together. So that is our pivot retainer and handle connector. Sorry, handle connector and handle adapter. Okay, so we've got our screw, our set screw. This is our screw that connects our handle. This is a replacement washer. And then this is called a retainer nut. And we've got our new copper clip. So we're going to do one for one as we take these apart. So the first thing I want to show you is how this top pops off. This little lid here just pops straight up. Finger pressure is all it takes. It's plastic. You don't have to force it with a screwdriver or anything. Put that off to the side. Now, the replacement parts kit, this one, comes with just about everything you need except a Phillips screwdriver. So you're going to want a Phillips screwdriver. It comes with the correct Allen wrench. Now, if this has been on for a long time, like ours had been on 17 years, it's not going to come off very easily. You're going to need to soak it in vinegar, maybe even apply a little bit of heat to it. I hit it with very lightly with a propane torch. So let me first, before I go any further, talk about the difficulty you might have in removing this and what you might have to do. So I'm going to put this screw back on. So let's imagine that this is frozen and there's no way you can get it off. At this point, this is when the plumber that I had hired to come out and do this, replace this for me, he said, it's not worth my time. He said, I'm probably going to have to put more force on that than it's worth. I might break something in the body. I might tear the whole thing apart. You're better off just getting a whole new a whole new faucet, which I didn't quite agree with. I didn't think this was a lost cause, but we went ahead, got a new faucet, I installed it, and I took this whole assembly out, which allowed me to get a little better access and soak it in vinegar to clean the whole thing when I was done. But to get to that point, if you look at the instructions, everything I was able to find online says you have to remove these in steps. First, the handle has to come off, and then you can actually disconnect the handle adapter. But after I got this all apart, I realized that I didn't have to do that. I'd used a stem removal. That you may be asking why I didn't use that. I did use that, and it was so frozen that I actually broke my stem remover. I had to rebuild it out of steel, but that's a whole different video. So once you have your set screw fully removed, you can then work this around, and if your set screw's not out all the way, just reach in there again. You may have to reach in there with a small set of pliers and pull that screw out of there. Oh, that's what happened. The screw had actually gotten bound. All right, now you should be able to work this back and forth, and there we go. And it comes out. And this is what you're looking at here. This part here, the handle adapter is not made of stainless steel. I don't know what it's made out of. It's not straight pot metal, but it's definitely some kind of, it wasn't rusted, it was corroded. So it's some kind of aluminum or some kind of alloy, but it definitely had seized in there pretty good. So like I said, I tried everything I could think of, including putting a propane torch on this to put heat on it, soaking it in Freol, some nut buster, and soaking the whole thing in vinegar, and I could not get it to break loose. So what finally worked, I thought maybe if I can apply some impact to that joint, maybe I can get it to break loose. So what I did was I loosened my set screw, just maybe backed it off halfway. And by that point, I had discovered this kit, and I knew that I didn't have to salvage this piece anymore. I knew I was going to get a new one, new screws and everything, so I wasn't worried about damaging it, just getting it out of this handle. So I finally thought, well, if I can use a marking tool. This is a spring-activated punch for marking holes in steel. Get yourself a drill spot. And I thought, well, maybe if I can get that little bit of impact, it can break this loose. And so I just did that a few times, and on the third time, it popped right out. So that's something you can try. You can also just try and chip that out bit by bit, but it's probably not going to go very well. I would try this. I would try soaking it. I would try heat. To be honest with you, it was probably a combination of all of the above to get that apart. But now we've got these parts out of here. I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to unscrew this and get our handle adapter out of there. We don't need that screw, so here's our handle. This is the bin for all of our old parts. All right, now this body just screws off. It's plastic. It's plastic threaded into more plastic. So you shouldn't have to put very much on it. I have not seen this part available anywhere, so if you damage it, you may not be able to replace it, but quite honestly, it does not affect the function of the faucet at all. So if you cared more about function than form and could do without that, you wouldn't really need it. So we're going to disconnect our parts starting from the pivot retainer. Here's our pivot stop. Here's our washer. I'm going to get our retaining nut off, and that's actually, if you need to put a pair of a crescent wrench on it or something, it's made for that. All right, now we've got our copper retainer right there. I'm gonna zoom in with the camera. So here's a better look of what that looks like. So what you would normally have here, you can see that I've already had this out before, and it was so difficult to get out that these plastic tabs, I'm gonna put our old copper retainer right there. Actually, we're just gonna throw it in the box because we're replacing it. You can see how chewed up that is there. It had, well, let me just show you the new one. It had plastic tabs that came up that help you align it to make sure that your inflow properly lines up with the body. And so you can see these tabs here. It was so corroded after being in there for 17, 18 years that even with the removal tool, so that just fits on like so. You can imagine those tabs there where that gap is. You have this screw backed out all the way, and then you just start to thread it on. You can feel it thread onto the stem. There, it's on the stem. And once it's tight on there, you're going to turn the big nut, and the big nut is going to force its way. You see how that's tight there now, and as you turn that down, it's going to just bring, you can see that coming up. And if you have to give it a little bit of wiggle, there we go. And there's your old stem. Now, like I said, this was so corroded that some parts came off of the old one and got stuck down in there. Okay, so you can see what that looks like in there. That's pretty clean. And the way I got that clean was I did actually have the entire thing removed, and I used wire brush, brass, don't use steel. I got these in a pack from Harbor Freight for maybe $5. Probably got them on sale. With a little bit of vinegar and just working that in and out as you twist it will clean out any old deposits in there so you don't wind up tearing up the new cartridge when you install it. So speaking of the new cartridge, all of these things have directions. Here's the directions that come with your new cartridge that show you how to remove and install on a variety of different faucets. You've got a parts breakdown that shows you how to install all of these parts here. Speaking of, now that we've got that done, we're going to go ahead and start reinstalling our parts. This is our old cartridge. We don't need that tool anymore, so we're going to get that out of our way. So, installation is the reverse of removal. Here's our cartridge. I've already gotten it lubricated with some Moen silicone lubricant. You don't want to use too much on this or else the handle won't stay in the on position on its own. Gravity will close it. You want to make sure these tabs are lined up with the spaces here. You can see that right here. You can see the plastic tab, and this should just go right in. They give you a little alignment tool right here that comes with the cartridge that fits on there, and it allows you to again put a wrench on it to get it to go back and forth a little more easily. And there you go. That's in just like that. There's our new clip. It snaps right in there. You have to fiddle with it just a little bit. There he goes. So that's what that looks like when it's installed properly. Next, we're going to go ahead and put our new retaining nut. So, a word about how these two pieces fit together. So see, there's a tab right here. There's a little point. That point has to fit in between this groove here when the pivot stop installs. And you can see the pivot stop has these side tabs that fit right in this area here. So it fits on one way. If you have this too tight, it's not going to engage in that little groove there. So don't go too far. Again, a little bit further than hand tight, and that should be perfect. You know, everything in there is snug. It's a nice tight fit. Nothing's going anywhere. The next thing we're going to install is we're going to install our washer. Don't forget this. If it's going to keep your little rubber part of your cartridge or your handle adapter from getting cinched down too tightly. So that goes in. Works better if you have the screw out first, and then you can install that. There you go. So that's on. Now I'm going to put the set screw in. That is a two-hand job, so I put the camera down while I did that. Set screws in. You can see it's all nice and tight, but there's no cinching, there's no binding. It moves back and forth really nicely. You got your up and down movement. So we're gonna pull it up to the on position. To get our pivot assembly retainer screwed on. It's got locking tabs. The new one does. The old one didn't, but it's got locking tabs. And that's in. You see it's got a little bit of give, but it locks against where it was. So again, nothing scraping, nothing binding. Now we're going to put our cover back on. Trying to make sure I don't get it cross-threaded, because you want this to have plenty of space so that as it rotates, it doesn't scrape or drag. No scraping, no dragging, nice and snug. Now, we're going to put our handle back on. Make sure we've, as far as used parts, these are the two parts we didn't use. I don't see anything. There's our new handle screw. We're going to put our handle back on. Of course, that's not a Phillips. Make sure you're not cross-threading it. Anything more than hand pressure and you've got a problem. And that's on. Put our cap back on. Little tiny bit of movement there, much better than it was. Goes left, goes right. Doesn't run into the faucet. Very smooth. So that concludes today's video. I hope you found it useful and it gave you information that you need in order to tackle a job like this yourself. These faucets are made pretty well and they're pretty easy to fix if you just take a little bit of time and have the proper tools and materials. I really enjoy taking things around the house and returning them to service instead of just tossing them out or going and buying a replacement. So I hope you tune into some of my other videos as I tackle some of these small household jobs such as this and show you how you can do it yourself.